Hi, good evening. Austin Mayor Steve Adler. You got a minute? We're still, at the tail end, but still in the midst of this disaster. Both transitioning from that disaster to recovery. Still have folks in the middle of the disaster. Still have apartment complexes that don't have water. But a lot of people are out. The energy has been turned back on. It's 99% on. I think there are 15 outages with 39 customers at this point, not without power. Working on that, still working on water. The entire city right now has water availability without a need to boil. But we still have a lot of broken pipes. So we'll have an apartment complex, for example, with 12 buildings, and 3 of them are without water because of a break that's on the apartment side of the line. We're chasing those down, trying to bring assistance and help, but we're continuing to move forward. We're going to have a special called meeting of the City Council tomorrow to look at some of the things that we can do, and I'll talk about that in just a second. But first, I want to begin tonight by just thanking everybody in this city that just has really worked hard and picked up the effort to take care of our fellow neighbors. Thousands of volunteers across the city taking people in when they had power and others didn't, helping to keep people warm, volunteering at the warming stations that we were able to open. I think we opened 16. Only 2 of them remain open at this time. But a place for people to be able to go where they could get food and they could get water. Everybody who volunteered at the water distribution stations. I think at one point we had 13 of those in the city, others in the county, and we'll talk about those in a second. I think we're just down to a few tomorrow, but tons of volunteers helping with that effort. We gave out over 3 million bottles of water to people at those centers. It was people driving around in their pickup trucks, trying to get some water and some food to people that needed it. There was a welfare call to reach people over 75, later extended to people over 70, originally initiated by Councilmember Kitchen, but I think every council office in the city put their shoulder to that effort. Massive call, almost 100,000 to reach people, to find out who needed help. And then trying to get them that help that they weren't otherwise able to get. People doing pop-up efforts here and there. Council members, I think that Council Member Fuentes and Casar and the Mayor Pro Tem setting up stations in their districts. So that people could get access to food and to water. The Millennium Center with Mayor Pro Tem has turned into one of the more permanent sites, which has been open, going to be open again tomorrow to help people with food and water. They need some volunteers. We'll talk about that in a second. I just wanted to thank everybody at a crisis like this. When a disaster comes to a community like this, so much of the response are volunteers and people that are stepping forward to help one another. It happened here, and it is just reaffirming to see. Let me talk about some of this here for just a second. There is a need for volunteers. If you want to volunteer and can help out at the Millennium Center tomorrow, this is a site to go to, austintexas.gov/help-atx-winter to volunteer. We need help. Everybody is stretched really thin, working in lots of different places. But if you're able to, that would be great. I was out there today with the Mayor Pro Tem, and they had water and they had some food. What they didn't have dog food. They didn't have incontinence supplies for people. They needed some baby food. So if you could bring that kind of thing, period products, they were looking for out there, because that's what people were asking for. Still long lines. People looking for assistance and help. Still water coming out from the county and the city. Still food coming out from the county and the city. But restaurants making dinners and meals and supplying them to people. We're going to be moving into a situation now where we're dealing really, really heavily with the recovery. Folks doing repairs. And you may be one of those folks or know somebody that's having to deal with repairs. If you are uninsured, we lobbied the president and got him to extend for us the highest level of emergency that enables FEMA to offer assistance directly to property owners or renters without insurance, to businesses that might not have insurance. Here's where you go: disasterassistance.gov. You'll just put in your zip code. If you have insurance, they're going to want you to check there first. This is a reimbursement, a low interest loan program. Make sure that before you do any repairs that you take tons of pictures to document the conditions that existed before. Make sure you save every receipt. Document real clearly the work that you're doing. It increases the chances that you'll get reimbursed. Tomorrow, there's going to be some water delivery stations that are open. You saw before we had quite a few. We're down to just this number tomorrow. This is where they're going to be: Nelson Field, which is on Berkman, the Onion Creek Soccer Complex on William Cannon, Gilbert Elementary School, the Lago Vista City Hall, and Lago Vista and the Lago Vista City Hall. There's one more, I think, and I'm not sure I can find it quickly. Let me see here. The Village, Lago Vista City Hall. There's also one at Village of Point Venture on 411 Loman Ford Road in Leander. Jones Brothers Park in Jonestown. Those areas to the west, higher elevations, still dealing with significant challenges. These sites open tomorrow, Thursday at 9 a.m. And if you need water, you don't have water at home to be able to boil, that's a good place to be able to go. We have, again, people trying to make repairs. A lot of the busts and breaks at this point are on the property side, not the public side of the system, which means that the landlord, in the case of renters, should be making those repairs. If they're not, call code at 311. Code is right now responding to code complaints, contacting landlords to make sure that they're doing the work to get water to their tenants, issuing citations if they're not doing that, as an incentive to get them to move forward on that. Let me see here. If you need other community resources, a good site to go to is austintexas.gov/weather info. In Spanish, that would be austintexas.gov/info climática. We'll get you information in in Spanish. We're going to have to continue pulling together as we move forward. Tomorrow, the City Council is going to consider ways that it might be able to act right now to help with the recovery effort. It's not only going to consider a resolution to extend rather, the declaration of local state of disaster that I had earlier entered, but also looking at an ordinance that would waive residential permitting and development fees related to the repair or reconstructing structures, removing tree limbs damaged as a result of the winter weather, waiving emergency medical service fees and costs for services that were provided during the winter disaster. Considering a resolution to exempt certain plumbing activities from permit requirements, extending the deadline for certain permit requirements, waiving the registration requirement for plumbers, so that folks, plumbers that might work outside the state can more easily come in to help us here. The council is going to consider a resolution that I think other council members are going to be participating in, of asking the manager to take a look at other ways that we can mitigate the impact. It's going to include things like finding resources and putting forth the plan that can result in or lead to long-term housing stability and resilience for some of the people without homes that were moved into shelters and moved into hotels to try to keep them on a path rather than returning back to tents and sleeping bags in the city. But also taking a look at modifying the wastewater averaging period for 2021. Every year in February, the utilities take a look at people's usage, and they use that to set the rates for people the following year. It doesn't look like this would be a particularly good month to do that in. We'll talk about that. We'll talk about plans for mitigating any spike in water bills that property owners or tenants may see with respect to water leaks. Taking a look at finding immediate resources and plans to coordinate response to apartment complexes with prolonged water outages. Figuring out how to get additional resources and support to tenants. Considering a one-stop shop for all recovery resources, including FEMA and development services related resources. Looking at how to address short-term housing needs for people that might be displaced while repairs are needed on their home. Help funding repairs for homes. Identifying any gaps that might exist in the FEMA programs in terms of eligibility, to see if we can step in and provide coverage for more people in our city. And then the last thing that I'm going to suggest tomorrow is that we actually have a plan for a really formal review here locally of the disaster, as well as the response for the disaster, so that we can make sure we're doing everything we can do to make sure that this doesn't happen again, if possible, but also to take a look at our response so that we can make improvements in the future to the things that we do. I joined with we take the fields off the board. I joined with a little over a dozen mayors around the state, send a letter into our state leadership to make sure that we take a look at ERCOT, to take a look at what needs to be changed or resolved or fixed or something to ensure that we're never here again. And the frightening thing is, no matter, even as bad as this was, we were within minutes of this being an even worse situation. and that'll come out in these reviews. But they shut down the power before we actually tripped the whole system. If we had tripped the whole system, we'd be dealing with power outages for weeks, not just for days. And we should never be in that position. But I joined in this letter with the other mayors. I'm looking forward to the hearings that begin tomorrow at the state level. But I think the council needs to start putting into to process something that we take a look at just here ourselves, both the crisis as well as our response. Let me see here. And I'm looking at the screen, and it looks like to get it back on. Let me try some things here. We've frozen. And I can't be heard. Let me can you hear me now? All right. I don't know why you can't see me, but I'm going to keep talking, and I'll end this up. And I apologize, I can't be seen. It's showing it's just frozen. But I got through most of the stuff I want to talk about with the city council action tomorrow. Let me close by just talking about COVID numbers quickly. We can't pull up the dashboards, but the number of admittances we had today was 35. It was down by 1 from 36 yesterday. That puts us about 5 above what it's going to take to go into the yellow zone. I'm sorry we don't have any video right now, so I could show you those charts. But that's a good number. We're kind of holding steady there. We're going to have to see how that turns out. We don't have the 7-day moving averages. Won't have those numbers probably for another 3 days because we kind of lost track of those numbers. During the disaster we had, they weren't really indicative numbers. But you can take a look at what the census is. In our hospitals yesterday, there were 319 people. We're down to 304 today. Good direction. 112 people in the ICUs down yesterday. Now we're down to 102. 75 people on ventilators yesterday, 71 today. So those things are moving in the right direction. We're going to continue to watch them so that we can make a decision next week if we can start moving into a different stage. Everybody be safe again. Thank you for all the volunteers that are doing just an incredible amount of work. This is our city coming together. We still have a lot of recovery work still to do. We pick that work up tomorrow. If you're able to volunteer at the Millennium, please do that. You all take care. Good night and be safe.